One of my colleagues, John Whitenberg, recently pointed out an article by Starbucks that talks about their new strategy going forward from September 2024. John's saying that this four areas of focus is not the right way to go about strategy, and it needs to be more focused than that. I'm going to attempt to dig in a little deeper on that and talk about how strategy needs to be developed at a company like Starbucks. Let's take a step back. So what happened is back in August, Starbucks replaced their CEO and Brian Niccol became the new CEO. This is the strategy that he came up with. Here's an article, I'm going to read a little bit from it. He says that over the past few weeks, I have spent time in our stores, speaking with our partners and customers and talking with teams across operations, store design, marketing, and product development. And he says these are the things that I've found. First, Starbucks is a beloved brand with wonderful people. Second, there's shared sense that we have drifted from our core. And to elaborate on that, he says our stores have always been more than a place to get a drink. They have been a gathering space, a community center where conversations are sparked, where friendships are formed, and where everyone is greeted by a welcoming barista. And a visit to a Starbucks is about connection, joy, and of course, great coffee. But he says in some places recently, especially in the US, we aren't always delivering. It can feel transactional. The menus can feel overwhelming. Product is inconsistent. Wait times are too long, or the handoff can be too hectic. And these moments are opportunities for us to do better. To correct that, he says we will focus on four key areas, and he came up with these four different areas that he's going to target. He's going to empower baristas to take care of their customers, giving them different tools and things like that. He says the second point is get the morning right every morning. And then the third one is reestablish Starbucks as community coffee house by doing some other things. Fourth point is that he wants to take an active role in telling their story. So, I mean, well and good, but this is not strategy. This is not focused. There is no congruence to the strategy that he's talking about. But let me talk you through how strategy can actually be developed. I'll take the same data from the article here, and we'll see how you can actually come up with a strategy based on the challenges that we're having right now. So what is it that we want? What we want is Starbucks to be more than just a place to get a drink, right? We want it to be a gathering space. We want it to be a community center where conversations are sparked, where friendships are formed. And we want it to be a place where everyone is greeted by a welcoming barista, that they have the time to actually do it and the motivation and the incentives to do it. We also want it to be about connection and joy and of course great coffee. That is the thing, that's what we want. And what is the evidence telling us that this is not happening right now? The symptoms that Brian points out in the article are these ones. He says the transaction, the sale of coffee or getting coffee can feel transactional. And he says the menus can feel overwhelming. He also said the product is inconsistent and the wait times are too long and handoff can be too hectic. So let's think about what could be causing these things. Could there be, these are all many different challenges, right? If you dig deeper, a lot of times you'll find that the underlying causes are very few or probably just one. There usually is a root cause for a lot of these problems. So could it be, so let's look at the fact that the product is inconsistent, right? Could it be that the product is inconsistent because the menus are overwhelming? And when I say menus are overwhelming, what I mean is there are too many items on the menu. There are maybe 30 items on the menu, right? And each one is made in a widely different manner. So the menu is overwhelming. The menu is also overwhelming, not just to the customers, but to the baristas as well. So because of that, the product is inconsistent because the baristas need to get trained on how to make all these 30 different types of products in the same consistent manner every time. So obviously that's a very difficult task. So could it be that that's the reason the product is inconsistent? Could it be that because the menus are overwhelming, it also takes longer to make the coffee because the baristas need to they can't be really highly skilled on how to make all these 30 different types of coffees, right? And they would spend equal amount of time trying to train themselves on those things, but they can't get good at making all those coffees because only a few types of coffees are made um, every day predominantly. So it could take them longer to make the coffee because there are too many items on the menu, or widely different items on the menu. And because it takes longer, the wait times are too long. And also because it takes longer to make the coffee and the wait times are too long, the handoff also can feel too hectic because the baristas can of course see that there's a long line waiting, right? So they want to get it done with the existing customer quickly and move on to the next one. So the handoff can feel too hectic. And because of all these, the transaction, the purchase of the coffee, the whole experience can feel transactional. It doesn't feel like an experience. They're not greeted by a welcoming barista, and it's not a place where they feel they can hang out because of all these issues are happening. So you can see that we have narrowed down here everything to this one root cause, that the menus are overwhelming. So what could they do? They could simplify the menu. Instead of having so many items on the menu, they could make it a simplified menu, which the baristas know very well how to make, and the product quality can be maintained in a consistent manner because you're only making a few types of items, and because they can make them faster, the wait times will not be too long, and the handoff will not be hectic, and the baristas can actually take the time interacting with the people, and the people feel not rushed, and the whole thing will not feel transactional. And will this now solve our problems? Will this solve the problem of it being a place of gathering? Yeah, could be. If it's not transactional, people will like to go there, hang out. If it will it make it a community center where conversations are sparked? Sure. If they're not rushed, they'll hang out and make conversations and make friendships with other people, and they'll remember it as a pleasant experience. Will it be a place where everyone is greeted by a welcoming barista? Yes, we already said that. If they have time, they'll do it. I'm sure they're already trained to do it. I'm sure they're already encouraged to do it, but they just don't have the time to do it today in the current environment. So if you solve the problem, they will have the time to do it. And it'll also be a place of connection and joy and great coffee as well. The product will be consistent because you've narrowed down to a few types of coffees, a few types of products. So this is a strategy. The strategy of simplifying your menu is a strategy because it's the one thing you can do that will actually impact everything. Whereas the things that Brian Niccol is proposing, which is getting the morning right every morning, is not a strategy. It's just something that you desire. It's a platitude, is what it is, right? That's reestablishing Starbucks as the community coffee house. That's just a desire. This is not strategy. Strategy is it's a specific thing that you can do that will actually impact all of the challenges that you're currently going through. Now, is this the right answer? I don't know, because we need to validate this. We need to either invalidate this by finding evidence to the fact that, okay, by simplifying the menu, we may not actually make the product consistent, or by simplifying the menu, we will not reduce the wait times, or we will not make the handoff less hectic. We will have to invalidate that. That's disproving the hypothesis, right? That's the scientific methodology. So you either have to do that, and that's the right way to do, or you have to find evidence to the fact that based on your current situation, you can find evidence to the fact that this is actually happening because of this. the product being inconsistent could be happening because of some other reason, right? It could happen because your supply chain is inconsistent, because your coffee grounds that you're getting are not consistent every time. It could be that there's a different problem to this thing, and not the fact that there are too many items on the menu. But maybe not. Maybe it is because it's too many items. This is the hypothesis I've presented, but you'll need to either validate it or invalidate it based on the data. And if I were doing strategy development with the Starbucks executives, I'll look at the data and dig into each of these points and try to find what is the root cause here, and keep going deeper until I'm able to find the one or two causes that are leading to all the challenges and try to eliminate that. And that is how you can move forward. That is how you can actually leap forward. And this is how strategy needs to be developed. Most companies today do not go about strategy development in this fashion. They either do not understand what strategy is, and generally speaking, they come up with 4 points or 5 points or sometimes 30 points of what they want to do as their strategy. Or even if they do understand that it needs to be more focused, they don't go about developing that strategy in a logical fashion like this, because they don't think that strategy can be arrived at with logic and with reasoning. But you can, if you actually put your thoughts on paper and follow some logical frameworks, you can arrive at strategy with reasoning. And this is how you would do it.